The truth began to move quietly long before Sandra understood anything. It started on a soft evening when the lights of the city were fading, and she sat by her window thinking about how life sometimes surprises you in the quietest ways. She did not know that this time the surprise was big enough to shake her heart. And the story began the moment she heard a voice message from a close friend who sounded confused. The message said that someone had been helping children in a small community school for many months, and no one knew who the donor was. The friend said the support was always given under a different name, and the school believed the donor wanted no praise. Sandra felt curious at first, but did not think deeply because people often help in silence. But something about this felt different. The kindness looked familiar, and she did not know why. That night she went to an event where actors and directors gathered for a small charity meeting. She entered the room with a calm smile, but her mind still carried the question from the message. As she walked inside, she saw Keanu across the room. He was helping a young volunteer fix a small stand that had fallen. His hands were gentle and quiet. He was not in the center of attention. He was not seeking anyone's eyes. He was simply helping because he believed everyone deserved respect. Sandra watched him for a moment and felt something warm inside her. Keanu always had a way of being present without making noise. She walked toward him and he greeted her with a soft smile. He asked how she was doing, and his voice carried a calm that made her forget her worries for a moment. They talked for a while about simple things and work, but part of her kept thinking about the secret donor and the strange feeling that connected it to him without any reason. As the event continued, Sandra met a woman who had come from the same small community school mentioned in the message. The woman spoke with pure gratitude about the unknown person who had changed the lives of many students. She explained that the donations came exactly when the school was close to shutting down. She said new books arrived for every child. Repairs were made to the old building. Warm meals were added for the students who could not afford food. She said it all happened quietly without any public announcement. While listening, Sandra felt a slow pull inside her chest. The kindness sounded too gentle and too thoughtful. She had seen Keanu give support to strangers many times before, but he never talked about it. He always believed kindness had meaning only when nothing was expected in return. She did not want to assume anything, so she stayed silent. Later that night, she stepped outside to catch some fresh air. The city lights looked soft and warm. She stood near the railing and looked up at the sky, thinking about how people can carry entire worlds of goodness without telling anyone. She thought about how rare it was to meet someone who helps without needing to be seen. As she was thinking, she heard footsteps, and Keanu walked out with a relaxed smile. He stood beside her and looked at the sky too. He said the night felt peaceful. She agreed, but her mind was still restless. There was a moment of silence between them, not heavy, not uncomfortable, just quiet. Keanu asked if something was on her mind. His voice was gentle and patient. She wanted to ask directly, but she did not want to invade his privacy. Instead, she said she had heard about a school that had been receiving support in a very humble way. He listened but did not react much. He only asked if the school was doing well now. She nodded and noticed that his eyes looked soft but unreadable. A small wind moved through the quiet night, and Sandra felt a deep emotional pull. She wondered why her heart felt heavy even though nothing was proven. Sometimes the truth you feel inside arrives before the truth you can see. She looked at him again and felt something rare. It was the kind of kindness that does not need words, the kind that hides itself because it truly comes from the heart. She stepped closer to the railing and whispered that she wished more people understood the power of helping without expecting applause. Keanu smiled a little. He said helping someone was never about being seen. It was about doing the right thing even if the world never knew. His words touched her deeply, and in that moment her suspicion grew firm, but she still said nothing. She respected his privacy and respected the quiet way he lived his life. After a while, Sandra left the event with a slow, thoughtful walk. On the drive home, she kept remembering the woman's words and Keanu's gentle reactions. She knew that he had given so much to people without ever speaking of it. But this felt different. It felt personal. It felt like something he had been carrying silently. When she reached home, she sat on the edge of her bed trying to understand why her heart felt so full. She could not shake the feeling that the truth was very close to her, and once she found it, her entire view of Keanu would change forever. She took a deep breath and decided that she would not assume anything, but she would find the truth with patience and respect. She believed that some truths deserved to be discovered gently. That night she closed her eyes, but sleep did not come easily. Something inside her kept whispering that this story was only beginning, and the truth ahead had the power to touch her heart in a way she had never expected. She did not know that in the coming days she would uncover something so pure, so human, and so emotional that it would bring tears to her eyes. She did not know that the quiet man she had admired for years was carrying a kindness that had changed many lives without a single word spoken. She only knew one thing: the truth was waiting. The next morning, Sandra woke up with the same quiet feeling in her chest. It was the kind of feeling that does not leave easily because it carries a truth that is trying to reach you. She made a cup of warm tea and sat near the window. The sunlight slowly filled the room, but her mind stayed focused on the school she had heard about the previous night. She kept wondering why her heart pointed toward one person again and again. She did not want to jump to conclusions, but she knew she had to understand what really happened behind those donations. She wanted to honor the kindness without breaking the privacy of anyone involved. She took a slow breath and decided she would visit the school herself. Maybe seeing it with her own eyes would help her understand the truth in a gentle way. By afternoon, she arrived at the school. It was a small building on the quiet side of the city. She expected it to look old and tired, but when she stepped inside, she saw fresh paint on the walls. She saw new chairs and desks. She saw children reading books that looked brand new. Their laughter filled the place like sunlight. She felt her heart soften. She spoke with one of the teachers, who told her about the stranger who had been helping them for many months. The teacher did not know the donor's identity because everything came through a simple envelope delivered at different times. Sometimes the envelope had money for repairs. Sometimes it had lists of items already bought for the children. Sometimes it had nothing but a small note saying, "Keep going. You are doing your best." Sandra listened with full attention, and every word she heard made the quiet suspicion in her heart grow stronger. While walking through the school, she noticed something small but powerful. One of the children was holding a book that looked familiar, not because she had seen it before, but because on the first page there was a small handwritten message. It said, "Read with courage and grow with kindness." The writing was simple, but the words carried a heart she recognized. She had heard Keanu say something similar once during a conversation about life. She held the book close for a moment and felt a soft ache inside her. She still did not want to assume, but everything she saw felt connected to him in ways she could not ignore. After leaving the school, she sat in her car with a deep breath. She felt something warm in her eyes, but she held herself together. She wanted to understand more. She drove toward a quiet cafe nearby and ordered a drink while thinking about everything she had seen. Her mind kept repeating the same thought. If Keanu truly was the one behind all of this, he had been helping without telling anyone, not even her. It showed a kind of humility that was rare and beautiful. It also showed how deeply he cared for people without ever needing the world to see it. As she sat there, she received a call from a staff member at the event the night before. The staff member said the charity list needed final confirmation because some donations were added anonymously from time to time. Sandra asked if there was any information about the anonymous donors. The staff member explained that one of the donations for the school had been sent through a simple envelope without a name. Sandra asked if there was any clue at all. The staff member paused and said there was only one small detail. There was a little note inside with a short message saying, "Never give up hope." Sandra felt her breath catch for a second. She had heard Keanu say those exact words many times to people when they needed comfort. The connection felt stronger, now almost impossible to ignore. Later that evening, she met Keanu again at another small gathering. This time, the room felt different to her. She watched him help a young assistant carry chairs. She watched him pick up a dropped folder and hand it back with a gentle smile. She watched him listen carefully to someone who was nervous about their first movie audition. He had a way of making everyone around him feel safe. Sandra walked toward him slowly, and he smiled when he saw her. He asked about her day with genuine interest. She told him she had visited the school. She watched his face closely. He did not look surprised. He only asked how the children were doing. She said they were doing well. She added that the atmosphere there felt full of warmth because of someone who helped them without ever being seen. Keanu listened quietly. Their conversation grew deeper as they talked about kindness and the weight it carries. Sandra said there was something powerful about helping people silently. Keanu agreed gently and said that real kindness does not need applause. He said sometimes silence protects the purity of the act. His words touched her more than she expected. She wanted to ask him directly then and there, but something inside her held her back. She wanted the truth to come from him naturally, not through pressure. She wanted to respect his way of giving. A moment later, there was a small interruption when someone approached Keanu asking for advice about a personal project. He stepped away for a moment, leaving Sandra standing near the soft lights. She watched him speak with calm focus. She felt her heart grow heavier with emotion. She had never seen a person so consistent in kindness. It was not a performance. It was not a show. It was simply who he was, and knowing that made her respect him even more. When Keanu returned, he looked at her with a quiet question in his eyes. She smiled softly and said she was proud of him without explaining why. He looked a little confused but grateful. He did not ask for details, and she did not give them. The truth was slowly rising between them like a gentle wave, not spoken but felt. When she returned home that night, she sat in silence with one thought repeating itself. If Keanu was truly the person behind the donations, she needed to understand what moved him to do it. Kindness that deep always has a story behind it. Something personal, something meaningful. And Sandra knew she was getting closer to the truth one step at a time. The next morning, Sandra woke up with a stronger pull in her heart. It felt like the truth was close enough to touch, but still hiding behind a thin wall of silence. She moved slowly through her home, trying to calm her thoughts, but every corner of her mind went back to the school, the new books, the quiet notes, and the gentle words she had heard from Keanu the previous night. She knew something important was unfolding, and she felt both nervous and grateful at the same time. She wanted to understand the full story, not because she needed to expose anything, but because she wanted to honor the kindness that was changing so many lives. She stepped outside to take a walk, hoping the fresh air would help her think. The streets were calm, and the morning sun brought a soft glow over everything. She walked without a clear direction until she reached a small park. She sat on a bench and watched children play while their parents laughed nearby. It reminded her of the school she had visited. She remembered the bright faces of the children holding new books and running through the hallway filled with laughter. She could almost hear their voices in her mind. For a moment, she wondered what it would feel like for them to know someone cared so deeply without wanting anything in return. She felt a warm ache in her chest because she already knew who that person might be. After sitting in the park for some time, Sandra decided she had to speak with someone who might know more. Not to reveal anything personal, but to understand the history behind the school and the struggle it had faced before the donations arrived. She visited the community office that managed the school. An older woman welcomed her kindly and asked how she could help. Sandra explained that she wanted to learn more about the school's journey and how it had survived through difficult times. The woman smiled softly and invited her inside. They walked down a hallway filled with photographs of students and volunteers. The woman told her that the school had nearly closed a year ago due to lack of funds. The building needed repairs, and many families could not afford even basic school items. Then one morning, an envelope arrived with enough money to fix the roof. At first, everyone thought it was a mistake, but then more envelopes followed at different times. Sandra listened with full attention as the woman described the careful timing of the support. Every time the school faced a new problem, another envelope arrived. Sometimes it came at the perfect moment, almost as if the person knew exactly what they needed. The woman said she had never seen anything like it. She said the help was gentle, almost protective. Those words stayed in Sandra's heart, gentle and protective. They fit Keanu in a way she could not ignore. She thanked the woman and stepped outside with a quiet heaviness inside her chest. She began walking toward her car, but stopped halfway because she felt overwhelmed by the thought that the truth might be even deeper than she imagined. She closed her eyes for a moment and took a slow breath. She could feel something shifting inside her, something emotional and meaningful. Later that day, she met Keanu on a film set. They had a short scene to rehearse, but her mind was still full of thoughts about the school. When they finished rehearsing, he looked at her with concern. He asked if everything was all right because she seemed quieter than usual. His voice was warm and steady. She wanted to tell him everything she had learned, but she also knew she needed to move carefully. She did not want him to feel exposed or uncomfortable. Instead, she told him she had visited the community office. He listened with calm interest. She told him how the school had almost closed and how someone had stepped in with silent kindness. She watched his face again, trying to understand the emotion behind his eyes. He did not speak for a moment. Instead, he looked down at his hands and took a soft breath. Then he lifted his eyes, and his expression held a depth she could feel but not yet define. He said there were many good people in the world who helped without seeking attention. He said sometimes those people carried stories that others never knew. His words were gentle, but they carried a quiet truth. Sandra felt her heart tighten. She knew he was speaking from experience, not imagination. Their conversation stayed simple but meaningful. Yet Sandra could sense a heaviness in his tone. Something about the way he spoke made her believe even more that he had a connection to the school. After a few minutes, they were called back to set. Sandra walked behind him, feeling a wave of emotion rise in her chest. She knew she needed one more piece of the truth before she asked him anything directly. After filming ended, she decided to visit the school once more at the end of the day. This time the hallways were quieter because most of the children had already left. A young boy stayed behind waiting for his parent. He held the same book she saw before. She sat beside him and asked if he liked reading. The boy nodded excitedly. Then he said something that made her heart jump. He said the man who gave him the book told him that reading would help him build a strong future. He said the man spoke very gently and had kind eyes. She asked when he had seen the man. He said it was many months ago one evening when the man came to visit the school quietly. He said the man did not talk much. He only left the book and smiled softly before leaving. Sandra felt her breath catch in her throat. She knew that smile, she knew those eyes, she had seen them countless times. The truth no longer felt like a question, it felt like a warm, bright certainty rising inside her. She thanked the boy and walked outside because her emotions were building too fast. She stood near the entrance with her hands shaking slightly. Everything made sense now. Every clue, every quiet moment, every gentle word, it all pointed to the same person. Keanu had been helping the school long before anyone knew. He had visited quietly. He had given without a name. He had protected those children from falling into struggle. He had done it without telling a soul. That night, Sandra drove home with tears in her eyes. Not tears of sadness, but tears of deep respect. She felt overwhelmed by the kindness she had seen. She also knew she had to speak with him soon, not to question him, but to let him know how much his silent efforts meant. She wanted him to know that his kindness had reached far more hearts than he realized. She did not know what he would say or how he would react. She only knew one thing. The truth she was about to uncover would not break anything. It would only show the world a deeper side of him that very few had ever seen. The next day, Sandra woke up with a heart that carried both calm and tension. She knew she had reached the point where silence could not continue. The truth was clear in her mind, but she wanted to hear it from Keanu in his own words. She wanted him to speak freely without feeling cornered. She wanted the moment to be gentle because the kindness he had shown deserved nothing less. She sat at her kitchen table thinking deeply about how to approach him. She did not want to break the quiet way he carried his goodness. She only wanted him to know that she understood and that she respected him more than ever. By late morning, she received a message from the director asking her and Keanu to meet in a quiet rehearsal room before their next shoot. She took this as a sign that the moment would present itself naturally. She arrived early and stood near the window looking outside as her thoughts shaped themselves again and again. She felt nervous but determined. After a few minutes, she heard gentle footsteps behind her. She turned and saw Keanu entering the room with a soft smile. He greeted her with warmth, but he immediately sensed something different in her eyes. He asked if everything was all right. His voice held concern that touched her heart. She gave a small smile and said she wanted to talk to him before rehearsal. He nodded and stepped closer so they could speak without interruption. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of distant sound equipment. Sandra took a deep breath and began by telling him about her visits to the school. She described the joy of the children, the repairs made to the building, and the small handwritten notes left behind. She watched his expression carefully. He listened with deep attention, but his face remained calm. Then she mentioned the moment she met the young boy who said a kind man gave him a book and told him to grow with courage. She said the boy remembered the gentle eyes of the man who visited. Keanu lowered his gaze for a moment. He did not speak. He simply breathed slowly as if preparing himself for a truth that had been waiting to come out. Sandra continued gently. She said she did not want to invade his privacy. She did not want to make him uncomfortable. She only wanted him to know that she understood the depth of what he had done. She said the children were safe and growing because of his silent kindness. She said the school stood strong because someone cared enough to help when no one was watching. There was a long, soft pause. This pause did not feel heavy or tense. It felt like the air itself was holding something precious between them. Keanu finally lifted his eyes. His expression was calm but filled with an emotion she had not seen before. It was a mixture of vulnerability and quiet strength. He began speaking slowly. He said he had visited the school once by chance many months ago. He saw the building in poor shape. He saw children sitting on broken chairs trying to study. He said something inside him felt heavy that day. He could not walk away without helping. He said he decided to support the school silently because he wanted the focus to stay on the children, not on him. Sandra felt her eyes warm with emotion. She did not want to interrupt him, so she stayed still as he continued. He said he knew how it felt to struggle quietly. He said he believed children should never carry burdens they could not control. He said offering help without being seen made the act more real to him. He also said he never expected anyone to find out, especially her. His voice softened when he said that part. She felt the sincerity in every word. Sandra stepped closer and told him that what he did was extraordinary. She said kindness without a name carries a power that touches people deeply. She said he had changed so many lives without asking for anything in return. She could see something shift in his eyes, a gentle release of weight. He had carried this alone for a long time. Now someone understood his heart, and he did not need to hide it anymore. They stood in silence for a moment, but it was not the silence of awkwardness. It was the silence of respect. Sandra told him she would keep his truth safe. She said she would not tell anyone unless he chose to share it himself. Keanu gave her a small, grateful smile. It was the kind of smile that showed his trust in her had grown deeper than before. He said he appreciated her understanding. He said most people never look beyond the surface, but she always saw the heart behind the actions. Their conversation was interrupted when the director entered the room calling them for rehearsal. But Sandra and Keanu exchanged one last look before leaving. It was a look filled with quiet honesty. Something between them had changed in a tender way. Not romance, not confusion, just a deep respect that came from witnessing the true character of another human being. During rehearsal, Sandra found it hard to focus entirely on the script because her mind kept replaying Keanu's words. She realized how rare it was to meet someone who lived with such humility. She felt honored that he trusted her enough to share his truth. Every time she glanced at him, she saw a man who carried kindness like a quiet light. He did not wear it like a badge. He held it gently within him. After rehearsal, they walked out together. The evening sky was soft and dim. Sandra thanked him again for telling her the truth. He smiled softly and said sometimes the right people uncover the right things. He said he did not plan for her to know, but he did not regret that she did. He said her reaction made him feel understood in a way he had not felt in years. That night, Sandra drove home with a calm heart. She felt proud of him in a way that words could not hold fully. She also felt grateful because she had witnessed the quiet side of his soul, a side that most people would never see, and she knew this truth would stay with her forever. But the story was not ending yet. Something unexpected was about to happen, something that would reveal an even deeper layer of his kindness. She had seen the beginning. Now she was about to see how far his heart truly reached. The next morning came with a gentle calm, but Sandra could feel that something new was unfolding. She woke up with the same warm respect she now carried for Keanu, yet there was also a quiet uneasiness inside her. It felt like the story was not finished. It felt like there was still something hidden behind the silence he kept around himself. She carried that feeling through her morning routine, trying to make sense of it. Every time she remembered his voice the day before, speaking with honesty and softness, her heart filled with admiration. But another part of her wondered why he chose that school in particular. People help many places, but choosing one small, struggling school meant something personal. On the way to the studio, she kept thinking about it. Her thoughts moved gently but persistently. When she arrived, she saw Keanu already there helping a new staff member carry equipment. He greeted her with his usual warm smile, and she felt the same respect bloom inside her again. Their connection felt deeper now, shaped by truth instead of assumptions. But she also sensed a quiet weight behind his smile. It was so subtle that no one else would notice, but she felt it clearly. They began rehearsing scenes for their film. Between takes, they talked softly about everyday topics. Yet Sandra felt something unsaid in the air between them. She knew he trusted her enough to share his truth, but she also sensed there was still a part of the story he kept hidden. Something he had not spoken about yet. Something that connected his heart to that school in a deeper way. After filming ended early, the director told them they could leave for the day. Keanu offered to walk her to her car, and she accepted with a warm smile. As they stepped outside, the afternoon sun was soft and quiet. Sandra felt the moment rising inside her. She wanted to ask, but she hesitated. She respected his privacy, but she also sensed he carried something heavy within him. When they reached her car, she finally spoke. She asked him softly why that school mattered to him so much. She asked with care, not pressure. She said she only wanted to understand him better, not to intrude on anything personal. Keanu stopped walking. He placed his hands in his pockets and looked down for a moment. The silence around them became still, but it was the stillness of truth preparing itself. He looked up again, and there was a gentle sadness in his eyes. He said there was something she did not know yet. He said he had not planned to tell anyone, but since she had found the rest on her own, he wanted her to hear this part from him. Sandra felt her breath slow. She could feel the weight of the moment. Keanu began explaining that years ago he had met a boy who lived in that same community. The boy had loved books and dreamed of becoming a writer. He visited the school often because it was the one place where he felt safe. Keanu said he met him by chance during a small local event. The boy told him about the struggles at the school and how many children wanted to study but lacked support. Keanu had been moved by the boy's quiet hope. He promised the boy he would visit the school someday. But before he could return, the boy passed away due to an unexpected illness. Keanu's voice softened as he spoke. Sandra listened with a heavy ache in her heart. He said the loss affected him deeply because he felt he had made a promise he could not keep. He said the boy's dream was to help the other children in that school have a better future. So when Keanu later passed by the school and saw its condition, he remembered the boy's words. He said he felt he owed something to that child's memory, a memory that never left him. That was why he began donating quietly. That was why he stepped in every time the school struggled. He wanted to honor the dream the boy never got to fulfill. Sandra stood still, moved beyond words. She felt tears form in her eyes because this kind of kindness came from a place of deep humanity. It was not charity. It was a promise held inside the heart. She could feel how much this truth meant to him. She stepped closer and placed her hand gently on his arm. She told him that what he did was not only beautiful but deeply meaningful. She said the boy's dream lived through every book in that school and through every repaired hallway. She said he had kept the promise in a way that was more powerful than words. Keanu smiled softly, but his eyes still carried a quiet ache. He said he never wanted anyone to know because he did not want the boy's memory to turn into a public story. He said the silence felt like the most respectful way to honor him. Sandra nodded and told him she would keep this truth safe with her. She promised she would never speak of it to anyone, and she meant every word. The moment between them settled into a gentle calm. The sun was fading and the shadows began stretching across the lot. For a long time they simply stood together in silence. But this silence was filled with depth, trust, and an unspoken bond formed from pure kindness. As they finally said goodbye and walked to their cars, Sandra felt something rising inside her. Admiration, tenderness, respect. She had always known Keanu was humble and kind, but now she saw a depth in him that few people ever got the chance to witness. The truth she learned did not change how she saw him. It made everything clearer. She now understood his heart with a clarity that touched her soul. But the story was not finished yet. Something unexpected was about to happen again. Something that would reveal how powerful kindness can be when it passes from one person to another. The next events would show Sandra and Keanu that kindness never ends where you think it does. It continues to move in ways you cannot predict. The next week began quietly, but Sandra felt a new strength growing inside her. The truth she carried now was not a burden. It was something warm and powerful that shaped how she saw the world. She looked at Keanu with even deeper respect, and every time she remembered his story, the memory filled her heart with emotion. She knew he had helped the school in honor of a lost child, and she knew he did it without wanting anyone to notice. But she also felt that the story was not ending there. She sensed something more was still waiting to unfold. 2 days later, they were invited to a small community event near the same area where the school was located. The organizers wanted to honor the volunteers and supporters who had helped the community during difficult times. Sandra immediately felt that she should go. When she told Keanu, he agreed with a calm nod. He did not ask questions, but she saw a quiet understanding in his eyes. They arrived together, blending naturally into the modest crowd. The atmosphere was warm. Children ran around with joy, while parents set up tables filled with homemade food. Sandra noticed something touching. Many of the children from the school were there. They were carrying new backpacks and books. She watched as they played freely, unaware of how close the person who helped them truly was. She looked at Keanu, who stood quietly with his hands inside his pockets, watching them with soft eyes. He did not step forward. He did not want any praise. He simply wanted to see them happy. The principal of the school approached Sandra and thanked her for visiting earlier that week. She spoke about the progress the school was making. She said new donations had continued to come in, allowing them to add more learning materials. Sandra smiled and nodded gently, but part of her felt an emotional pull deep inside. She knew exactly who had made all of this possible. As the event continued, something unexpected happened. The principal took the microphone and gathered everyone together. She explained that they wanted to show gratitude for all the silent support they had received. She said they still did not know who the donor was, but they wanted to offer a small tribute to honor that heart. Children stepped forward with handmade cards and drawings. Each child held a different picture. Some drew books. Some drew the school building. Some drew a simple person with a warm smile. Keanu froze for a moment, not visibly but inwardly. Sandra saw the stillness in his eyes. She knew the tribute was meant for him even though no one else knew it. The children began reading small thank you messages. Their voices were soft but full of sincerity. One child said, "Thank you for helping us read." Another said, "Thank you for making our classrooms safe." Another said, "Thank you for not forgetting us when others did." Sandra's heart tightened. She looked at Keanu. His eyes were slightly glossy with emotion, but he kept them lowered. He held himself with quiet strength, but she could feel how much the moment was touching him. He did not step forward because he believed the tribute belonged to the boy's memory, not to him. But the gratitude still reached him in a powerful way. One little girl walked toward the front holding a small piece of paper. She said she wanted to read something written by her older brother who could not be there that day. She unfolded the paper and began reading with a shaky voice. She said her brother wrote that a kind man visited the school 1 year ago. He said the man told him to keep studying and never give up. He said the man's gentle words helped him believe that he could dream again. The girl paused as her voice cracked. Then she finished her brother's message. He wrote, "Dear kind man, if you can hear this, thank you for making me feel seen." Sandra felt her chest fill with warmth and ache at the same time. She turned to Keanu slowly. His eyes were on the ground. His shoulders were still. But a soft tear slid down his cheek before he quickly wiped it away. She did not reach for his hand, but she stood a little closer so he could feel that he was not alone in this moment. The event ended with applause and heartfelt cheers. But Keanu stayed silent the entire time. He did not want the attention. He simply wanted to honor the child he once promised to help. When they finally walked away from the crowd, Sandra spoke softly. She said the tribute was beautiful. He nodded and said it belonged to the children, not him. She shook her head gently. She said kindness always leaves a trail even when you try to hide it. They walked together under the evening sky until they reached a quiet corner. Sandra looked at him with deep emotion. She told him that what he had done would live on for many years. She said the boy's dream had become reality because Keanu carried it in his heart. She said the world may never know the story, but she would hold it with honor for as long as she lived. Keanu looked at her with soft gratitude. He said he never thought anyone would understand this part of him. He said he never expected someone to stand beside him in a moment like this. Sandra replied gently that kindness deserves to be witnessed, even when it asks for silence. They stood there for a long moment, not speaking, just breathing in the quiet air around them. It was not a romantic silence. It was not a dramatic silence. It was something pure and human. It was the silence that forms when two hearts understand each other deeply. In the days that followed, the school continued to grow. New volunteers joined. More support came in from people who were inspired by the joy of the community. The kindness that began with one boy's dream and passed through Keanu's heart had now spread wider than anyone expected. And Sandra carried the truth with her gently. She respected him more than words could express. She saw him not as a star, but as a quiet guardian who brought light to places hidden in shadows. Keanu continued to support the school silently, trusting Sandra fully with his truth. Their bond grew stronger not through loud gestures, but through respect, honesty, and a shared understanding that real kindness moves in silence. And in the end, Sandra found something powerful. The truth she uncovered did not break her heart. It filled it, and it reminded her that sometimes the strongest people are the ones who give the most quietly.